One, two, three, go.
How you doing?
What's up, riders? This is Kevin Wilson with BM Experts Podcast. This was formerly the BMX Hunters page, formerly Kevin Wilson. Last night I was hacked and I lost all of my information, all of my contacts, everything that I had. I had 2,700 followers that I had been cultivating for 3 years. Everything gone overnight because some asshole in fucking India got me. So I apologize for not being live on BMX Hunters right now. The new page is going to be the BM Experts on Facebook. If you're watching this video down the line, please go ahead and go to the BM Experts Facebook page, like, follow, and so forth. Today, a gentleman that I haven't seen in probably 38 years, and even 38 years ago, I only saw him once or twice. This is I want to introduce everybody to Tenacious Timothy Testa,
Hey, people, how you doing?
Otherwise known as the Volvo Killer, right, Tim?
Yeah, so let's get started with that story. So this is the story of me landing on the hood of a Volvo. Where it was at Rough Riders in Las Vegas, and I believe it was an NBL race, and me and another guy went down in the first turn. I got up to just beat him, and then went over a step jump, and there was a berm worker sweeping the berm. I had nowhere to go but right, which flicked me right onto the hood of a car, and Linda Dorsey started the Volvo eater. And I think I left that race with 2 concussions and a trophy, so it was all well worth it. And yeah, so
hey, Tim, where did you grow up?
okay, I grew up in West Covina, La Puente area, and back in the day, it was all fields, and there was riding for miles, like trails and jumps, and God, it was a mecca because there weren't as many people here back then, and there was a lot of places to ride. That's where you wouldn't. I was an outdoor kid, definitely, and so yeah, and then BMX was always in my wheelhouse. I had met, as I was mentioning, we had a lot of places to ride, and one day I met Gary Hazelhorst, and he let me ride the bike he was testing for National Pro at the time. This is probably 1981, and he told me about some tracks, and like I said, he let me ride the bike, and it was just like love at first sight. Like the BMX bike that he had compared to what general kid, like I rode a Cadillac, and it was just from there I was like, I want to do this. Had some neighbors of mine, a girl that I went to school with, her name was Suzanne Palmisi. That name might sound familiar.
Yeah.
They ran the US BMX track, and so Suzanne coerced me to go there, and yeah, it was all history from there. And it was probably the best time of my life. I mean, we were such a local track that had just, I mean, mega people like Linda Dorsey. God, I slept on her couch. Her dog used to fart. And it would sleep. Oh my God, so many Linda Dorsey stories. Without her, I probably would have experienced the majority of stuff. Like me and Brian Dorsey doing a trick show for Vans tennis shoes, going to elementary schools, doing bunny hops and wheelies, talking about BMX. That was pretty wild. Doing the Uncommon Valor movie, that was fun. I was an extra in that, and that was in June of 1983, and it was one day. It wasn't 2 days. It was just a 1 day shoot. Just I was watching some previous shows, and there was some misalignments in the story. I have an eidetic memory. I remember too much stuff. So yeah, that was June 1983, and what else? Yeah, there was a lot of people there, but Gene Hackman was there. Obviously, Red Brown. He was the star. That was his part of the scene. If you guys don't know the movie, it was a movie about POWs from Vietnam. Guys got out of Vietnam back in the 80s. I was really close to that era. So it was just, kind of like popular topics back then. And yeah, Gene Hackman was called to look for his buddies, and one of his buddies was a BMX guy. And the one uniform you saw, that was Jason Palmese's CW uniform, and some actor kid who I don't even know who he was. Nobody
Yeah.
does.
So
But
let me ask you a
yeah,
question. Let me ask you a question, Tim. Not to change subject, but you how old were you when you started racing?
I was 14,
Okay.
15 years old.
So before you started racing, you'd already picked up a BMX bike, right? You were already riding around town, or did you start racing and riding when you were
Oh
at
yeah,
14?
I started riding bikes when I was really young. Like, okay, this is a trivia question for you guys. The first time I went to a BMX track to race, there was a track in El Segundo, right next to LAX airport, where Imperial Highway runs parallel with LAX. There's this little like parkway, and there, I swear to God, there was a BMX track there, and my grandfather took me there, and they gave me the paperwork, and my mom had to sign it, and I was probably about 7 years old back then, so that's, I don't know, probably 76, 75. But nobody seems, not even Johnny Johnson, who's the encyclopedia of BMX history, just about, he doesn't even know about this track. But there was a track on Imperial Highway, or Imperial Way, I guess it's called. And if anybody could shed some light on it, I'm really curious. But that was the first place. I was about 7 years old. My mom said, no, 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 that's too dangerous. So it wasn't until a little bit later. But like I said, growing up where I was, it was a lot of hills and housing developments, like when they would tear us off the hills. I was riding bikes, all my life. So
Nice.
once I finally started racing, it was just a natural thing for me. Me and my younger sister, she was the first person to have a purple uniform, helmet, and bike. And that was probably 82, 83. So my mom kind of thinks that she started the trend, because back in the 80s, purple and pink and all those colors exploded. But before it was just regular, blues or reds or whatever. But my mom had a custom uniform and leathers, Aero leathers, and S&K was our sponsor then. I rode for S&K first with Mike Allen, Toby White, Scott Felt, who else? Tim Bastido.
Rex Butler.
There's a lot.
Rex Butler.
He probably came after me. I went to Maine. Okay, so when I was with S&K, I had a GT Nora Cup, and Craig Bark, if you know that name, he went to a high school next to mine. And knowing the Palmeses, they would always have people over at their house, which was just a block away from mine, like Nelson Chanady, Rob Fedd, Greg Hill. I mean, the name people that they used to rub elbows with were just everybody. Tracy's married to Donnie Atherton now. I was talking to him recently. I just scored on a Schwinn. And but anyways, yeah. So a lot of people like I seen in the magazines were literally in my neighborhood. It was just like, it was kind of bizarre, because back in the 80s, you had magazines. You didn't have like instant access. By the time I saw the Magic Mountain race, it was 3 months ago. But when you get that magazine, it's like current, and it was kind of trippy to see these people and then rub elbows with them. I mean, it's kind of like, not what you know, it's who you know. And like I said, Linda Dorsey really helped me meet a lot of people, got sponsorship wise, and she was awesome. And Brian too. I'm still in contact with him. He's doing his Danger Snacks, doing his announcing. Go see him at a BMX track near you. I think he's announcing a race up at Apple Valley coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, the BMX life, man. It's like
So once
you do.
I've been wondering, I've been asking this question for 35 years. How the hell did you get on main bikes? Because I was the 17X on main bikes. How did you score a ride,
dude,
with main bikes, dude?
That's a trip. You remember the Mirnanans?
Who?
John Mirnanan and Albert Mirnanan. They were on main bikes. And when yeah, it was and Peter Yee.
Peter Yee. I know who Peter Yee is.
Okay, yeah, and just I'm not really sure how it came about, but I was pretty much me and SNK we split ways, and I got a opportunity to ride with a JMC, Daryl Young. I had a I was this close to being on JMC at least with co-sponsorship, but then Vera had to have the bypass. But I had the bike box, I had the uniform, I had a Daryl Young, a factory Daryl Young frame fork, handlebars. Oh my god, just the holy grail. And that was just what I rode. Before that, I had free agents. Back when the Shoops had Yvonne Shoop had a free agent and did a bunch of R&D stuff for them. They're 20-inch bikes. If you look at their where the brakes were before the cantilever brakes, they had a flat brake bridge, and my contribution was breaking those, and so they went the tubular one. But yeah, and then before that, I had a GT Nora Cup. But
So what happened?
you know,
Did Keisha approach you? Did you approach Keisha? How did it happen?
I couldn't tell you. It just sort of happened, man. That was 35, 40 years ago. But I just know that I always wanted to ride for main bikes. They were just, SNK was really cool, but main bikes was like that next level. Probably because I got a national number in 1985. I was number 37. And that once that happened, that's when the JMC thing kind of started happening, thanks to like Billy Weeks' dad. And Bryce Barker too. Bryce Barker's dad was of Prodyne, which was kind of a cousin of JMC. So I had some friends that were, you know, part of that thing. I mean, I didn't race enough nationals. That was the biggest thing because we were on a budget. But I did go on tour a few times with Brian Dorsey and Peter Casano. I got a funny story about Bob Tedesco's daughter, and me and some other kids at a race in Indianapolis. And I don't know if it's appropriate, but yeah, we found a box of wine. I was done racing, and we were staying in Pittsburgh with the Encisos. And put it this way, wine in a box found in a park. Don't drink that stuff. I got so drunk there. That was so embarrassing, but I don't remember the ride back. But that was with Bob Tedesco's daughter. Good times. There's another time when Linda Dorsey put X-Lax in me and Brian's beer. That was a good one. I don't know if you guys know the name, Vicky Butler. She rode for Jag, and she had a stepsister named Vicky. It was the Vicky Butlers, and we were staying there for a race, and we were going to get some beer. And Linda Dorsey, rest in peace, she thought it'd be funny to put X-Lax in our beer, and fortunately, nothing happened. But yeah, there was some stories out on the road, and just the best times,
I still remember.
Hello, you're there.
I've run out of time already.
Son of a bitch.
I remember.
Well, you know what?
Dude, this has been nothing but a nightmare.
Uh,
I still remember this day when Keisha approached me and goes, "Yeah, I just got another 17X on the team. His name's Tim Testa, but don't worry, he only races NBL." And I'm all, "Oh, okay, okay, that's fine. Whatever you want to do, it's your team." And I remember that we showed up at in War of the Stars 84, 85, something like that. And then you showed up with your main bikes kit. And do you remember do you remember that race at all?
you know what? Vaguely, and now it's kind of starting to materialize in my head. I vaguely remember that, and I didn't realize it then, but I guess I do now. My bad. But no, I just, yeah, I never knew. Never knew that.
So nothing really happened. I don't remember
No,
any factory guys that were there that day. Do you remember any
no.
factory guys in
It
our
was just so
class?
in our class at the War Stars, like Eric Garces, I think was there. There was another one from Kuwahara. I forgot his name. Or not JG Goronzik. He might have been there too. Uh, Jeez, great.
Well,
Or
I
Eric
remember a bunch of Newhall Rally guys that were there.
Artie Custer.
Okay.
Artie Custer, he was pretty fast, and then there was Steve Williams from Racing, and I don't know what happened to that dude, but me and him were rivals. We were friends, but watching back with him, he was he was a factory guy. But yeah, I didn't race enough of the nationals. That's why they were like, but they gave me a lot of support. I did have a lot of co-sponsors. Like I had Amy, I had Oakley for a little bit. I had Vans with Everett Rosecrans. Like I said, Vans was good to me back then. And who else? Muscle Power, Hank Van Olfen. Ray Mendoza, he was my first boss. Me and Lonnie Tatton worked at the gas station he had right by the Pudding Hills Mall together. Rest in peace, Lonnie. And yeah, I've worked with a lot of people. Dave Marietti, I worked at the hot shop for like 5 years back in the day before he moved to Dana Point, and still talk to him and thankful for those times. Got to see the Redline logo redesigned, and we did the Christmas Classic. I did a lot of the sales when we go to the BMX races for T-shirts and stuff. So I stayed connected in BMX until probably '93, and then sort of went off and did other stuff.
So I remember, not to go back to this race, but this is the one I want to talk to you about.
Oh, I know. Sorry.
There was more than one rack, I believe, of 17X. Was it? I guess it was. I think it was 17 over X. I don't think it was 18 over X.
Probably 17.
I remember the main. It was me, you, and then a Newhall Rally guy, and maybe the Kuahara guy. I have no idea. But
you know what, man? That might have been the race I doubled at. There was one race I won because I was also racing cruiser back then, and I won both classes, and it was a War of the Stars. But I don't remember. Yeah, I think I was with Maine. I think I was with Maine during that time. I had my best seasons with Maine when I was with Maine. That was when I was not factory, but nationally ranked, and yeah. So Maine bikes.
You were with Maine.
Yeah.
You were with Maine bikes. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways, for those that are out there, I've told the story many times where I got the whole shot out of the guy sitting to my left, and I came out of the gate on my second crank, and I looked to the left, looked to the right. I'm by myself. My third crank, I broke my crank arm off.
Remember that? I think I remember that. Yeah, you not only did you break your cranks, but you like went over. You got kind of hurt.
I got fucked up.
Okay. Yeah, that was right under the bridge.
No, it was on the starting gate.
On the starting gate is when you broke your cranks?
Yeah.
Okay, so all right.
And then
that might have been the race I doubled at. I don't know the outcome of that, but I remember vaguely, man. There was so many races, God. But yeah, that's some power right there. I was
the only guy on the gate riding one-piece Takagi cranks, and I guess that's what I get for riding one-piece cranks.
Yeah, but that's pretty impressive, nevertheless, to break some forged cranks. I mean, one piece for forge,
on my Andy Patterson.
Oh, awesome!
I was a JMC guy too.
Oh yeah, JMC helped out Maine bikes more than people probably realize, because local bike shops. Maine and Norm's Bikes was another big one, because we were local in that area. And he was right there in Irwindale.
Yeah.
But
so after that, you kept racing. Did you ever go ABA? Or were you always NBL your whole time?
I raced both ABA and NBL, just not so much ABA. NBL, I don't know. I didn't like going to ABA races if I transferred out of the first moto, and sometimes you sit for a day or two till you go again. And I didn't like that format. I like the NBL, having to race three motos and then, cumulative points. Just preference, I guess, but ABA was, it was cool too. I carried NBL more. I was actually, 2 years in a row, I was number 3. But there was one year where I was going to be number 1, and at the race at Oildale in Bakersfield, it was the state finals, and I was in our main. I snapped whole shot. That track had a bridge, a little underpass, and then out of the underpass there was a set of doubles. And while I was leading, if I would have won that race, I would have had number 1 in California. But I ended up looping horribly and just spectacularly crashing it. So I ended up number 3 that year. But all I remember was the crash. And
Did you ever
yeah,
turn pro? Did you ever turn pro?
never went pro. I hurt my knee at La Mirada one time. It was a downhill track, and we were going over the first little like jump, and my handlebar caught the guy. My left side caught, and or was it the right? It was the right side because I landed on my right knee and got pretty good water on the knee, and just that knee pain. I didn't have the doctors or the resources to rehab, so rather than race and damage it again, I just sort of broke my spirit, I guess you could say.
So what? How old were you when you stopped racing?
Probably about 19, 20. So 5 years.
And never turned pro.
Never turned pro. Never went
Wow.
pro.
Do you remember your
Yeah,
last race?
I do. I remember it was at Irvine. It was a World Cup, and I remember talking to Frank Van Olfen, Muscle Power, and wasn't. It just wasn't connecting, and if I don't have, if it's not right, it's not right. And I remember telling Frank Van Olfen, I said, "Man, I think I'm done." He's like, "What do you mean? What do you mean, Timmy?" He just had a heavy accent. I think I've done what I've wanted to do and time to move on. And so yeah, that was like the last race. I think the last race was downhill at Corona. And then every once in a while for like several months, like another year, I'd show up every once in a while. But we got rid of the bridge at USBMX, and that sort of killed the vibe at the NBL track. And yeah, so it is what it is.
Nice.
But
So, we're gonna start closing this thing up, man. It's telling me I'm running out of time, man. So I'd like to talk to you all day
yeah.
long, but what kind of hardware you got left right now? What kind of bikes you got left?
So right now I just finished putting together a Schwinn the Sting with Campy hubs, Campy headset, 175 red lines. It has a 45 bubble font tooth front sprocket. I am willing to trade for a 43 tooth. I need a 43 tooth red line sprocket. This is a 45. It's fully polished. It's at my house in Chino. It's got a Pro Neck Pro, and then what else do I got? I got two free agents. I have one 24-inch ambush, which is the inaugural Dorsey Cup winning bike ridden by Peter Casano. I got it off of him about a decade ago. And then I
Nice.
also have a 20-inch free agent limo that was probably 1989. And I just restored that, powder coated it, and I'm just looking for
Nice.
parts for that.
We're running out of time,
Yeah.
Tim. I got to let you
Yeah,
go. We're gonna bring you on for another hot lap. Thanks for coming on,
definitely.
dude. And next time we're gonna get the FaceTime or the Facebook Live thing going, bro.
Yeah, we'll get this computer figured out. I appreciate you having me. And shout out to Eddie Urias. He just had a bypass, and I hope he gets better.
I get